Someone decided who you were before you had a chance to find out for yourself, and you have been living inside their decision ever since. Maybe it was a parent who saw you as the difficult one, the slow one, the one who would never quite figure it out, and something in you absorbed that verdict so completely that you have spent decades fulfilling it without ever questioning where it came from. Maybe it was a teacher who looked at you once, made an assessment in 3 seconds, and filed you into a category you did not escape until long after you left their classroom. The judgment was not announced. It did not have to be. It lived in how they spoke to you, what they expected from you, the ceiling they installed above your head so quietly you thought it was the sky. And now you are an adult, free to be anything, and you keep bumping into a limitation that has no name, because the limitation is not yours. It was placed in you by someone who has long since forgotten you exist. There is a version of you that almost existed, and sometimes you catch glimpses of them like a ghost in your peripheral vision. They speak up in meetings. They do not apologize before stating their opinion. They walk into rooms with the quiet assumption that they belong there. This version is not more talented than you. They are not smarter or luckier or made of different material. They simply had someone somewhere at some crucial moment who looked at them and saw something worth believing in. That belief became a mirror. The reflection became an identity, and the identity became a life you did not get to live, because the mirrors you were given showed you something smaller, something more hesitant, something that needed to be fixed before it could be trusted. You have been trying to fix yourself ever since, but you were never broken. You were only believed to be. Something was planted in you so early that you cannot distinguish it from your own voice, and this is the part that should terrify you. The thoughts you think about yourself. I am not good at this. I am not the kind of person who succeeds at that. I should not expect too much. These thoughts feel like self-knowledge. They feel like honesty. They feel like the mature acceptance of your own limitations. But trace them back far enough and you will find they are not yours. They are echoes. Someone else's assessment of you, repeated so often and absorbed so deeply that it now speaks in the first person. You have been thinking someone else's thoughts about yourself and calling it reality. And the invisible prison this creates is perfect, because you do not know you are in a prison. You think you are simply being realistic. Jung understood that the self is not born, it is made. And it is made largely from the materials provided by others. The child does not arrive with a fixed identity. The child arrives as a question, and the adults around them answer that question through 1,000 small signals. What they praise, what they ignore, what makes them light up with pride, and what makes them look away with disappointment. The child reads these signals the way a plant reads sunlight. They grow toward what is rewarded. They shrink from what is punished. And long before they have the capacity to question the process has already shaped them into a self that feels inevitable. The self is not discovered. It is installed. And most people spend their entire lives running software they did not write, never thinking to check who programmed them. The Pygmalion effect was named after experiments that proved what poets have always known. Expectation creates reality. Teachers were told that certain students were about to bloom intellectually. The students had been identified by a special test as having unusual potential. In fact, the students had been chosen at random. There was nothing special about them. But by the end of the year, those randomly selected students had dramatically outperformed their peers. Not because they were smarter, because they were believed in. The teachers' expectations had changed everything. How they spoke to those students, how much patience they offered, what they assumed when the student struggled. The belief became an environment. The environment became a self. The self became the proof of what had been believed all along. You are living proof of this effect, though you may not know in which direction. Someone believed something about you, and you became it. The question you have never asked is whether what they believed was true, or whether you simply made it true by becoming it. The distinction matters more than almost anything else in your life. Because if their belief was arbitrary, if another person with different assumptions would have seen different potential, then the self you have become is not the self you had to become. It is one possibility among many, and the limitations you experience as facts are not facts at all. They are solidified expectations, frozen perceptions, a story that was told about you so convincingly that you forgot it was a story. This is not about blame. The people who shaped you were themselves shaped. They passed on what they received. The parent who saw you as limited was seen as limited by their own parents. The teacher who dismissed you was dismissed by their own teachers. The infection of low expectation passes through generations like a hereditary disease that no one recognizes as a disease because it looks so much like realism. Everyone is just being practical. Everyone is just trying to protect you from disappointment. No one notices that the protection becomes the cause of what it was protecting against. You were told not to expect too much, and so you did not expect too much, and so you did not prepare for much, and so you did not achieve much. And the people who warned you feel vindicated. They were right, but they were only right because they made themselves right by installing the belief that made the outcome inevitable. The way out begins with suspicion, not paranoia, suspicion. The willingness to question whether the thoughts you think about yourself are actually yours. When you hear the inner voice that says you are not capable of something, ask, whose voice is this? When you feel the familiar ceiling pressing down, ask, who installed this ceiling? And why did I accept it as architecture rather than obstruction? This questioning feels disloyal at first. It feels like blaming others for your own shortcomings. But it is not blame. It is archaeology. You are excavating the origins of beliefs you have been treating as self-evident, and what you find may disturb you. That the most limiting beliefs feel the most true precisely because they were installed before you had the capacity to question them. Jung called the process of freeing yourself from inherited expectations individuation, the long work of separating who you actually are from who you were told you were. This work is not done through affirmation. You cannot paste new beliefs over old ones and expect them to hold. The work is done through confrontation, meeting the internalized voices directly, asking them where they came from and whether they have any right to continue speaking. Some of those voices will dissolve under examination. They were never based on anything solid, just the mood of an adult who was projecting their own limitations onto you. Other voices will transform. What sounded like criticism may become, when examined, a clumsy attempt at protection that you no longer need. The Pygmalion effect works in both directions. If expectation can shrink you, expectation can also expand you. This is why the people you surround yourself with matter more than almost any other choice you make. Not for their advice, for their belief. Find people who see in you what you cannot yet see in yourself. Not through flattery, but through genuine perception of something you have not accessed. Their expectation will become a mirror. The reflection will become possible. And slowly, the self that almost existed will stop being a ghost and start being who you actually are. You were not born limited. You were told you were limited, and you believed it, and the belief became flesh. but beliefs can change. And so, it turns out, can you?